You've been hitting chest every single day for months, if not years, and your chest still looks soft and fluffy. Now, the reason behind that is it's not because you've been overtraining it, it's simply because you've been training incorrectly. Now, why should you listen to me? I've been training for about 13 years now, and I've gone through my own fat loss transformation on multiple times. On one of them, I lost around 30 pounds of fat. On another one, I lost more than 20 pounds of fat. And I've also trained my friends, and I've also trained myself. And we all have our own lean aesthetic physiques as well. And we have a good solid foundation of training. And we've gone through stages of having like a blocky physique, a soft physique. And now we're at the point where we've all got aesthetic physiques. And I can teach you exactly how you can go from that to the other one. Now, the reason with having a soft chest, a puffy chest, a chest which is just like not aesthetic, even in the slightest, right? You might be really strong and you might not have an aesthetic physique. And that happened to me. And I remember exactly when that happened to me. I was training on a 5x5 program. And what was happening, the aim of those kind of programs is just for you to lift as much weight as possible, right? Now, I always ask myself, well, not anymore, but before, when I had that puffy chest and that not good looking physique in general, I just think to myself, what is the point of being like really strong if you don't look like, or you just don't look good? If that makes sense. And then I transitioned over to training for aesthetics. So what I started doing was I started doing more reps, not necessarily more sets, more so even like 3 or 4 sets, because 5x5 programs, you're doing 5 sets of 5 and the intensity is very low. They're like 4 or 5 minute breaks in between the sets. And I just knew even then it was for me, but I was coping. I was always thought, you know what, as I get stronger, I'll have more muscle and whatnot, but I just was not looking good. So what I decided to do was I started training for aesthetics. And the simple thing I started doing was I started training with more intensity. I started training more on the upper chest. That's why I started focusing on my whole routine, which I'll tell you about in a second. It's literally focused on building your upper chest. And in my opinion, the upper chest is responsible for how good your chest looks. If you've got an overdeveloped lower chest and you've got an underdeveloped upper chest, then your chest will just look soft, saggy. It just will not look good. Now, the way I start my chest days is I'll start with a set of pre-fatiguing. And what pre-fatiguing means is similar to a warm-up, but instead of doing any kind of random exercise, I'll do like a focused chest exercise. So I'll start with pec deck. Not probably, I'll always start with pec deck. And if I'm working out at home, in my home gym, what I'll do is I'll get a resistance band and I'll just do some kind of flies. So I'll bring the arm from here and I'll just bring it close to the chest. Now that is the function of the chest. The function of the chest is to basically get your arm and move it to here. And now you should always remember that when you're training, because that's how you should train your muscle. Like for example, the bicep, the function of the bicep is to basically twist the wrist. Now when you're training your bicep, you should also always try and twist the wrist, because that's the function of the bicep. You'll train it more effectively. So when you're training your chest, you should always try and do movements where your arm's going towards your body like that. When you're doing flies, you should always try and get your arm to cross across the center of the body. So when I'm doing flies, when I'm doing warm up, I'll always do something light and I'll always bring my arm past the portion of the chest. And what that will do is it'll pump the blood in the chest first and foremost. And when you start hitting your working sets, so say when you start doing your incline bench or incline dumbbell, whatever you want to do, your muscle will just be full of blood. And it puts a lot more tension on the muscle. Like the weight might only be, it might only be like 60 kilograms or something. The stress on the muscle, it's equivalent to like 80 kilograms, 90 kilograms. And after like not even a couple of months, like after a few months, you'll see your chest blowing up and you might think, I'm getting a lot of gains in a very short amount of time. And that's what it is. That's what pre-fatiguing the muscle does. And I saw a video, it was on, I can't remember who the bodybuilder was, but the guy does it for legs. And he says, the amount of stress it puts on the legs just doing a couple of sets of pre-fatiguing, it's like the legs are pushing like 1,000 pounds. Well, 1,000 pounds might be hyperbole, but that's what he said. So pre-fatiguing makes a massive difference to the muscles, and a lot of people, they struggle with mind-muscle connection when it comes to their upper chest. Now, pre-fatiguing, I feel like if it bridges the gap between not having good mind-muscle connection and having even a slight mind-muscle connection, because your arms are already, like your chest is already pumped. Your chest is already pumped. So once you start, incline benching, and if you do it the correct way, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, you'll have a great pump. You'll have great mind muscle connection. Your muscle will feel a lot more tension, a lot more of the weight. And what I said before, how to actually do incline bench. What I like to do is I like to kind of do partial reps. So I'll attach a video. So what I do is, obviously, I'll do a couple of sets of just to get my shoulders and whatnot, my triceps kind of warmed up and a bit loose. I'll only push the bar up slightly, about this much. And what that does is it stops the upper delt and the triceps from taking over the movement. So that the what do you call it? The tension is just on the upper chest. It's literally just on the upper chest. And on the way down on the consecutive essential part of the movement, you want to slow it down as much as possible. Slow it down and then explode up and then slow it down. Ideally, you do this with a kind of a spotter, or roughly how much you can lift. If I'm working out at home, I'll always go slightly. I'll go slightly little bit less heavier than I can handle, just because of the fact that if I need a spotter and no one's around and I've got the bar on my neck, then that's a recipe for disaster. So that's what you want to do. You want to start off with pre-fatiguing the muscle, then move on to an incline exercise. It can be incline dumbbell. I prefer always incline barbell, or I prefer the Smith machine, even better. Smith machine is a little bit harder in terms of the actual bar. The bar weighs a bit more than the normal Olympic bar, but it's a lot easier to control, and I feel like you can get more weight up on as well, and you don't really need a spotter too. So start doing that, start doing your incline pushes. Then what I'll move on to is I'll do flies. Depending on how I'm feeling as well, or when the last time was I did incline flies. Like me, for example, I hit a chest day yesterday, and the last time I did incline flies was not last session, but the session before. So this time I did high to low flies. So my arms were coming from up here and they were coming down to the lower portion. Like my arms were from high to low. That's why I call high to low flies. And I would do about 3 or 4 sets of them. With flies, it's not about moving the most amount of weight, because then your shoulder gets a lot of tension, your triceps, and you have to stabilize yourself. You always want to make sure you get a good contraction on flies. Make sure your arm goes past your other arm. So for example, say my arm goes past here, a lot of people, they stop here, just here, and they're missing out on so much more tension. Like, you can do it right now. If you're watching this video, bring your arm from here to here, and then bring your arm from here to all the way past here. It makes a massive difference. And once you start doing that, and then every chest day you go from these kind of flies to all the way past here, past like the center of your body, then those kind of gains will add up over months. That, like, if you're just going to here, then I'd advise to go here, because you're literally leaving gains on the table. And another one, when they talk about volume, boys, we want to hit chest at least twice a week. Now, if your chest is lagging, then you want to hit maybe 3 times a week. If it's severely lacking and you're like, what, I want to get my chest up, I want to build up strength in my chest, then try and hit your chest twice. Definitely hit it twice a week, but maybe even 3 times a week. And what you want to do is, I'll give you a rough breakdown of what I like to do and what I did before. So I would start with pre-fatiguing the muscle. So I would do some kind of pec deck, light pec deck. Then I would do an incline press. Then I would do flies, which I've said before. And then I would do dips. I'll attach a video of how to do dips as well, or the way I do them. And dips are simply the best way to describe dips is it's the squat for your upper body. It works everything. It works your chest, works your shoulders, works your triceps. And I'm sure there's kind of a core element too, because once I finish doing dips, and I just feel a bit sore. And if you do your dips correctly, you kind of have to lean forward. If you stay a bit too upright when you're doing dips, then it's a lot more of the tricep. You don't really hit your chest. But if you do dips correctly, you'll feel like your chest is about to rip apart once you get off the bar. So try and do that, and then try and do another incline exercise as well. So if you're someone who's done barbell bench, barbell incline press, then try and do Smith machine or dumbbell, or even do the hammer strength, the seated press. And that's literally the best way to build your chest up. Best and simple, most effective way. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to do 5x5 programs or anything like that. Of course, focus on progressive overload. Try and get the weight up on your lifts. Make sure you train properly, you eat properly, you rest properly. And as long as you do that and you hit your chest at least once, maybe twice, potentially even 3 times a week, and you're hitting about at least 5 to maybe even 25 sets. That's a wide range, but you want to hit that much for your incline, just specifically for your incline, and just for your chest in general. About hit 25 reps. Sorry, not 25 reps, 25 sets per body part per week. That's just a rule of thumb. I think that's it. That's literally how you go from a shit chest to an aesthetic chest. If you want any more advice on how to eat, how to train, how to sleep, how to train, how to breathe, then join my school community. The link will be in the description below, the first one. Click on that and kill.